Hi, I'm Matt, and today I'm gonna make Sword Kirby out of clay. So, to start, I get every single color that I'm going to need throughout the entirety of this project. Not really. And then I make Kirby's colors. So to start, I get a pink color, I separate it a little bit to the side for the cheeks, and then I lighten it significantly to make the Kirby color. Then I section off a little bit to the side for the hands, and then I make a ball. After that, I smooth out all of the cracks, crevices, and bumps on the ball, and then I just make it round. After that, I make the dark red color for the shoes, section it off into two properly sized balls, and then I cut them into shape, and then I just move them into size. They have a pointed front and a rounded end, so that is just all that I'm doing. I'm poking it until it has that shape. Then both of these get put into the proper position that I want them in. Since I want Kirby in a fighting stance, I put him in a fighting position. Then I make his cheeks by having two equally sized balls that are flattened out, and I attempt to carve in his mouth. I didn't like how this turned out, but this is another way to make Kirby's mouth. I ended up using a thin black worm. In order to do that, you just make a incredibly thin coil and make Kirby frowning, because I thought that looked best. This should be done with a smaller piece of clay, as doing it with a larger one would take significantly longer. And then I make two equally sized circles, turn them into ovals, and flatten them out on Kirby's head, giving him angry eyebrows. That is done with more black worms, and after that, it's time to give Kirby his pupils. Well, once it's shaped out. In order to give him his pupils, you get two small white circles of clay that are equally sized, and you push them out and flatten them on Kirby's eyes. Just the black void. After that, you get a bunch of different blues so that you get the proper blue coloring. And then you make worms out of that. These turn into two equally sized worms that get rounded into semicircles. These semicircles are not fully closed, or not fully semicircles. They're just curved worms. This is going to be at an equal size and put on both eyes. After that, I got a ball stylus to make sure that it was even flatter. And then, after that, I finally put on the cheeks, the blush. This is just a slightly darker and more saturated pink that is put next between the eyes and the mouth, farther out, and then flattened. Now, I start working on the sword. For this, I make the proper blue color, and then I make a long worm. After that, I cut out two equally sized segments for future sides and pointed sides, and then I make the handle, and then I make a ball, which then gets a oval, which then gets attached to the handle. After that, I make two pointed things for the handle, which goes on each side, and after that, I add a worm around the oval on the front to hold the gem. This goes on each side and then gets blended in with a ball stylus and fingers into the rest of the handle. Once that's finished, it's time to start working more in depth on the pointed wing thingies. Those get an indent on the center because that's what it looks like in game. So they look like little ears. One on each side, so 4 in total, and then they get pointed upwards. After that, I add gray, white, and blue until I get a proper sword handle, proper sword blade color, and then I just start making the basic shape by poking it and giving it a slight point at the front. After that, I cut in the shape using a sharp tool that I have. And after that, I use my fingers to poke it and give it little ridges for the final sword blade. After that, I combine some yellows, oranges, and reds in order to make the gems. These are 2 equally sized gems that are not fully orange, yellow, or red. They're a mixture of all 3. So do not fully mix the orange-red. Only mostly mix them. Then get 2 equally sized balls, round them into ovals, and then place them into the area inside of the worms that was made earlier. After that, it's time to bake the sword and Kirby. So now that that's done, you make with the extra light pink 2 equally sized balls for Kirby's hands. Once they are made, they get attached to the side of Kirby's head and blended into the rest of the body. But during this process, I managed to break off one of the legs. So, even after the arms were blended in, I still had to fix one of the legs. This can be done with glue, usually oven hardening glue, but I just put a little bit of pink on there, blended it into the rest of the body, and reattached the leg. Then I cut the arms to a good size, and I rounded the tips of the arms. After that, I stuck the sword into Kirby's hand because I didn't have any other better way to attach it. I don't know how Kirby holds stuff. And then I just put in some oven hardening glue to make sure that it didn't just slide out of there. Then I made a green cone using green in order to make Kirby's head. This is then placed onto Kirby's head and positioned to look like it's waving around in the wind, giving it a good position. After it's positioned properly, which is just bent over, it's time to add the details in yellow. After all the poking and prodding, there are 2 yellow details that need to be made. The first thing is a ball on the back of Kirby's hat, and the second thing is a thing connecting it to Kirby's head. I don't know. Ball gets turned into a ball and placed on the back, and then a worm is wrapped around the seam between the hat and Kirby's head. Then, when the worm is done getting placed around, it is cut to the proper size and then flattened. So, you wrap it around the entire head, cut it when it meets its other end, and then flatten it using your finger or a tool or really anything. After this, there's only one more thing that needs to get done. And that That's the base. So you get a bunch of greens together, then you flatten it so that it looks like a nice grass green platform, and you place Kirby on top of the base. Then you bake Kirby. If you've made it this far, make sure to like the video and subscribe, and also leave a comment if you want to see anything specific. I'm on my way to 100 subscribers, and I'm getting fairly close.